Hey guys, happy Monday. Welcome to Stop Being the Best Kept Secret. Damon, how are you?
I'm doing great, Kurt, and ready to go for the week.
Good weekend?
Yes.
Gosh,
Very
can you believe
nice.
we're halfway through July already? And so,
Yep.
man, I hope everybody got some just wonderful, great weekend because, man, we have a wonderful, amazing, incredible guest with us today. It's a repeat offender. We have Todd Underwood. Todd, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm amazed you had me back again. So thanks for having me.
Dude, it's been way too long. And I think,
Yeah.
did your mom, I think you need to be a better judge of character because you're hanging out with a couple shady guys here today, right? So it's, thought you maybe
Nope.
you'd learn the first time, but we are honored to have you back for a second
I'm glad to
time.
be here.
So, Todd, let's dive in. And you have an absolutely fascinating career, man. I'll tell you, I don't know anybody has the career that you've had. So you're with, let's start off with who you are today. And then I want to take a step back in time because you really have international, you've been all over the place. But talk a little bit, you're with CIFT and MEP. So for our friends out there, what are these acronyms? Who's the MEP first? And then let's dive into CIFT.
So, of course, MEP is the Manufacturing Extension Partnership, which I'm sure a lot of your audience knows is a public-private partnership in all 50 states. Some states have one partner, like, for example, Indiana has Purdue, and it's one partner for the state. Ohio's a little bit unique. We have 6 regional partners. We are Northwest Ohio, but what makes CIFT a little more unique than a lot of even the individual centers is we have we deliver direct services for food processing innovation technologies. So we actually have an in-house team. So we actually work with people across the state, sometimes other MEP centers, sometimes out of state, but we have a really strong food team. We can do food safety, smart food manufacturing, ingredient development, all sorts of things in-house. So we've got a real strong team in addition to helping out Northwest Ohio manufacturers, regular, your tool and die, your mom and pop shops, and even bigger companies.
Yeah, I'd love it. So let's hit that real quick. So, like any of our foodpreneurs out there, what's something like as you've dug into this, working with MEP, and we've got a video we're going to show you guys today. But last time you were on, you showed a powerful video, little Buckeyes. I remember that, Damon. It was like those little chocolate peanut butter, man. And being an Ohio State grad, I love when you were showing those little Buckeyes. But talk like anything shocking that as you've come into the food industry, like when entrepreneurs are coming into like, hey, I make these wonderful cookies, these treats, this, salsa, whatever it might be. What are some of the biggest surprises that entrepreneurs run into? What do you see that's new for those foodpreneurs?
Well, I think that's twofold, right? If you're just an entrepreneur coming in, and one of the biggest shocks for me is having, my what manufacturing background I had was in automotive castings, right?
Okay.
Which are a very different.
Oh yeah.
There's no shelf life. They can sit there forever. You want them to move because they're only pennies at the best on each part, but you don't have any worry about shelf life. You don't have to worry about food safety. So the amount of hurdles you have to go through to get that cookie or that salsa you're making at home onto a shelf or even into a farmer's market or even more into a national grocery store chain, it's a challenge, and it's a very, very competitive market. I mean, it is very competitive. Of course, quality matters, but branding matters a lot. Finding a unique way to market your product is really important. And then I'd say for the mid and maybe larger companies, there's just a big shift. And as you guys know, we just had a pretty big election, in case you didn't hear. And there's been a lot of talk about changing the way we make our food and what kind of ingredients we make. And that affects cost. And again, one thing people don't understand is food isn't really a high margin industry. People, big food, it really isn't like, this isn't like even the big companies are making a huge margin on what it's so competitive and grocery. It's such a complex market, more complex, I guess, than most people realize.
Yeah. It's amazing how many pounds and tons and thousands of tons that you have to process to make money in the food business, especially at scale when you get into the bigger brands.
Yeah, when you get to scale, and scaling up's a whole different challenge in food because it's not just making a bigger line. You've got to increase your environmental stuff. You got to increase your food safety. It's just not putting a bigger machine in. There's a huge amount of things that have to go in, and that's really what kind of puts CIFT, I think, in a unique position because we've got a really passionate team. And I'm not. This isn't my background, but that really have a lot of experience in the private sector. Doing this, and we're always expanding our team, and the things we can do just sometimes amazes me. So I just like to sit back and enjoy it sometimes and hear their stories.
Well, Again, hey, thanks for joining us today. You're here, you're with us. Drop us a note. Give us a big hello. We got Margo here today. Storytelling is everything. And man, I'll tell you, Todd's got some great stories. Todd, you talked about your background. If you don't mind, I find your background absolutely fascinating. Just share a little bit. I know you're an Ohio guy, but you took a couple detours. Just share with folks. And then I want to come back and just for folks just join us, we're going to be diving into storytelling. We're going to talk about building trust and a lot of other exciting things with the MEP network here. But Todd, just share with folks a little bit on your background.
I'll try to give you the short version. I was a late bloomer. I went to college and had a lot of fun and didn't quite finish and bartended and did that for a while. Then I mentioned I went and worked up in Dayton for my grandfather had owned a company that did automotive parts. We owned a lot of castings and things like that. He had worked for a big company called Dayton Walther, which is no longer here, but it was a massive, he was head of purchasing. And that's where I kind of learned logistics and things like that. I went back to school after my grandfather passed away because I about that age, everyone was getting married and I wasn't ready to get married and didn't want to just get married. And got my degree, wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I'd always wanted to go over to Asia because my grandfather had done a lot of business over there. I decided to go to Japan for a year to teach English and then come back and start a career. Big detour there. I met my wife. I ended up getting a job at a university, a national university, which was very rare because I only have a bachelor's in economics, not a PhD in linguistics. I used a little bit of my marketing magic, I call it, to market myself as a communication strategist. And that was great. I had about 10 years there. I ended up teaching at 4 national universities all through that area of Japan. Was teaching about 18 to 19 classes a week. It was great. But then we had 2 little girls, decided rural Japan was a little hard for a mixed family. And going back to college in my 30s, I had met a gentleman who had been from India who was working at Yahoo. And he was actually on the patent for search suggestion. I don't know if you know what that is, but when you type it in and it fills it out for you, he was the first guy to do that. And they actually beat Google the market on that. And he heard I was looking to move back to the US. He said, well, how about you take a detour and go to Hyderabad, India? You're a strategic marketing or you're a strategic communications guy. That's just like marketing. Why don't you move to Hyderabad, India? We did that for a few years. It was amazing couple years of experience. I was basically working a lot and really in the idea of design thinking. So the way I approach marketing is through a design thinking. Marketing is just a problem to be solved. The communications problem to be solved. We have some message. We don't know how to get it to the client. How do you solve that problem? Marketing has lots of tools, whether it be emails, language, blog. Those are all just tools to solve a problem, right? But the problem needs to be focused on the user or the customer. So that's why I'll get back into storytelling. Anyways, did that for a few years. India was very hard. It was a great place, wonderful people, but a startup life is not great with 2 little kids in urban India on a low salary. So we decided after a few years to move back to Toledo temporarily, where I grew up. If you had told me I'd live here again, I would have told you there's no chance. I was one of those guys who left and was never coming back. But we realized, hey, you can buy a house here. Started applying for some jobs. What's CIFT? What's this place? Food processing. I have no idea, but hey, I can go in there and figure out how to tell some stories. And 6 years later, here I am.
Wow.
God, I tell you, Damon, I could hear that. I could listen to that story all day, man. I'll tell you. And I'd love to dive deeper, hear more about Japan, India, and your family. And
anytime. I probably like to talk about it too much sometimes.
Big girl dad, and I know you're a big Cincinnati sports fan. So, let's dive into manufacturing. You're hitting on the head. Your grandfather, casting, so like a CNC shop, I bend metal, cut steel, whatever it might be. Branding probably wasn't like top of priority, right?
No.
Digital marketing probably wasn't top of priority.
No, we did very little marketing. It was all very aftermarket, but mostly to aftermarket B2B, and we did some OEM. So we made you know what the cast spoke wheel is for a truck? I don't know if you're familiar with that. We were the only producers of rim clamps that actually hold that. And that was a Dayton Walther thing. So we had, I don't know, 30 different versions of that, but the market was a shrinking market, right? And then you've got these castings that at that point we were opening up to China, and it was, pennies it was a tough business to be in. So put it that way.
Yeah. So, a lot of manufacturers in this space were branding, digital marketing, not an absolute top priority. So now as you said, your communication strategy and I love how you sold yourself in Japan. So you're a great salesman. You come back here, talk a little bit about things that you do to help manufacturers with their storytelling, how to get it out there. Just kind of give us a little overview 101, How do you help your manufacturers with that storytelling side?
Like I said, I think you think of it as a problem to be solved, right? So first of all, MEP does this. Most businesses do this. They want to list all their products and all the things they do, right? And they here's the 25 things I can do, but they don't connect those things to the client, right? They don't connect that to the client's challenges or problems. So the very first thing I do, and some of these videos, one of my favorite parts of doing the videos, I don't shoot them. I work with an awesome videographer named Josh Nagel, but I go on every shoot and I do the interviews, is get them talking about their business outside of their comfort zone, right? We don't make okay, tell me what you do if you make castings, but don't use the word castings. Like, tell me who it is you sell to. You ask the right questions. You frame it in a way that they're not used to talking about. And that's honestly where the magic happens. You'll know when you're doing these videos or these interviews, you'll hear it. You're like, damn, dang, that's it. Oh my gosh, they just said it. Like, they just said it. And even they sometimes will be like, holy cow, I've never heard myself talk like this. And that's such a powerful thing that you can't fake, you can't market research it. It's the real connection to the people and what they're doing and what they're creating, and giving them some sort of agency. Does that make sense? Like, they have an agency to what they're doing, because sometimes people tend to put down what they do too. Oh, we only make a widget, but hey, without that widget, that truck doesn't go, that food doesn't get, we are all part of an amazing chain. And when you get people to think that way, I think that's where you get some amazing branding opportunities.
So let's go here. Damon, what do you have?
Well, I just think it is when you get that, because people could say, like you said, we make castings, but when you uncover it and go 2 levels deeper, it's like, we live castings. Yes. We understand why they're important, how they're used. We've seen every way that they can fail. And, you just hear those stories about all the stuff that they didn't realize or learned and over the years. And then you can feel, it's almost like the one artist they talk about that can do the painting in 5 minutes or whatever. And it would normally take all that learning, how that progresses forward into a great casting today.
Yes.
And that's what's cool about listening to those
100%. I agree.
Stories.
Damon, you made me think of like Bob Ross, right? The famous guy, and right, doing
my wife loves Bob Ross.
So somebody referred to me as Bob Ross the other day. I'm like, well, I'm missing one thing, man. I don't have the hair. So let's go here, Todd. So I've got a ton of questions. Again, we've got Todd Underwood here today. We're talking at the CIFT, which is the MEP of Northwest Ohio. Todd, so when you came into CIFT, you're kind of how I viewed. So I had the privilege. I met you. You were actually speaking in Chicago, and I was on stage, or you were on stage. I was in the audience, and man, you blew me away with a wonderful presentation. I believe it was you and a couple of your teammates. Do I have that correct?
Yep. Yeah.
And so I feel like you play a couple of different parts, because like you're trying to help the MEP broadcast brand themselves, and you're relentlessly helping manufacturers kind of, am I right? You're kind of doing a little bit of both.
I think it's more of the MEP, but so I think they're the same thing, really. And we can get into that. I think this is somewhere where the MEP needs to do better. Everyone knows manufacturing is important, but they don't know the story of manufacturing. If we want to get more kids involved in working in manufacturing, if we want to get reshoring efforts, people have to understand the people who are doing it. I think you guys are the same age as me. There's stigma around still working in manufacturing, even though it pays great. And no matter how many times we say it, it's not moving the needle enough. What we really need to do is, so I feel like I'm helping the MEP when I tell our story through the voices and the eyes of the people we serve. So it's a little bit of both. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. And the thing is, you have such a fascinating perspective coming from an international, being abroad for so long. What does reshoring mean to you? It's one thing for, so for like, hey, what's reshoring and bringing it back? Like, again, you have from a Japan perspective, India, you've done business over there. What does reshoring mean to you?
A tough one without getting political. I don't want to get political on it, but I will say, like, I was surprised in Japan and India how difficult and expensive American-made goods were. I mean, they were very expensive. And that always surprised me, because I thought we had more free trade. But to me, reshoring means a couple things. During COVID, again, I had just joined CIFT during COVID. We all saw what happened to the supply chain. It's not just, so we often focus on price, right? Price. I was in automotive. But I studied economics. What is price? Price isn't just the cost, right? So there's a cost to having there's a real cost beyond price to having a fragile supply chain. There's a real cost to that we never talk about. We only talk about it's cheaper to make it here. That's not all of the economic analysis. It shouldn't be. And I think we need to reshore some of these things for multiple reasons. One, it's important to strengthen our supply chain. I mean, we should not have critical items not being able to be produced in the U.S. And two, again, maybe I'm getting way out here. I've been doing a lot of work with AI the last year, 2 years, 3 years, maybe. It's going to change a lot of things, and we're going to need to change our workforce, because even my job, I don't know what it's going to be like in 5 years. So it's important to bring those jobs are going to become even more valuable. So I think it's a little bit of both. It's we need them for safety, and we need them for a future for our kids. I mean, I've got a 13-year-old. I don't know what she's going to do in 5 years. Is it going to be a college degree? I think so, but I don't know if that's the way to go. Certainly, I doubt in 10 years that'll be the way to go.
Right. Great.
Sorry if I got too far ahead there.
No. Great. Phenomenal point. I'm kind of jumping all over the place. You mentioned AI. Let's dive into AI a little bit. How are you seeing your job, your role at CIFT? Like, how's AI changing things for you?
I'm doing a lot more. I mean, I used to have a team of 2, maybe 2.5. It's a team of 1. I mean, without going too deep into the rabbit hole of AI, I have a lot of fears about AI being abused, because what AI can do is it can make it can make somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about look like they know what they're talking about if you don't know what they're talking about. And it lies a lot. I mean, again, I use it daily, but what I found it can do, and it does a really good job when you get good at doing the prompts, is taking stuff that's real, that you've already done. You're not asking it to tell you something you don't know, but you're telling it something you know. And you say, look at it in 5 different ways that would take me normally a week to analyze this in 5 different ways, but it can do it in a minute. So that's what I've been using it for. We've even used it, without getting too in the weeds, I've gone on some site visits where we've used it with people who don't have equipment that they bought maybe overseas. They don't have SOPs because it was in a different language. We've used it to translate. We've mic'd people up. That's one thing that I've enjoyed. We've mic'd people up and had them just talk through the machines and use that recording to then transcribe it, then to look at that and create SOPs. We're trying to do in CIFT, we do a lot. We're trying to use that technology in new ways, because we've had a guy speak on this twice, about 2 years ago. His name was John Edwards, and at the very end of his presentation, what he showed about AI, and to me, this is the truest thing about AI. He shows a picture of the very first television show. And it looks, you remember the old radio shows? They'd have the people making the noises and stuff. That's what the first television show looked like, because they didn't understand the medium. They weren't sure how to use this new medium. I think if you listen to podcasts religiously like I do, I'm not as smart as half these people talking, but even the smartest people in the world about AI don't know where this is going to take us. The only way to figure it out is to get your hands dirty and get in there and use it with what you know. Don't use it to pretend you know something. Take what you know and use the AI to look at it differently. And I've given a couple of presentations on this to smaller groups internally, not with manufacturers, but that's really important. And I don't know where it's going to lead. I think if you're productive, though, it can lead to a lot of opportunities. But if your job is repetitive, you better figure a way to use this quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree 100%, because it is going to repetitive work. It's going to change it a lot to the point that now I used to do repetitive work. Now I can do the repetitive work that used to take 3 people to do it, because I'm just making sure the repetitive work is getting done right. I'm handling exceptions. I'm doing it. That's working 24/7. I just need to make sure it's working, adjust it, whatever we got to do. And it's a completely different relationship. And it's no different really, though, when you think about what happened, and I'm old enough to know this, when Excel started, right? It used to be Lotus 1, 2, 3 for those people that remember that, right? We were doing a lot of, when you look at back at that time, accounting was still done with paper ledgers and things like that. And this is 30, 40 years ago. So this is not that long ago, right? No. And now you look at just getting something as simple as QuickBooks now. It's doing all this stuff that's happening in the background. So the people that had those skills back then, it was just gone. And I think this is what AI is going to do with something like that. It's going to say, hey, we don't need to know as much of how that basic stuff is done anymore. We need to know that it is working right and that it is coming out right. So it's no different than college students today. When I went to school, I had to learn how to do calculus on paper and do all that kind of stuff. But yeah. Now it's like you put it into the calculator and bloop, it comes out, and the way it goes, you don't even use a calculator anymore. You use your laptop, and it works. And I think
that's going to change.
Yeah. We're going to run into these things now, and then into AI, where multiple things are happening with one person that makes us more efficient and more capable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And agreed, the people who are going to get in and use it and figure out how to use it in new ways are going to be the winners. And I will say this, it's going to be a very fast moving market because some of the things we are doing just internally at CIFT, we've had service providers who are like putting millions of dollars, like, hey, we're doing this. I'm like, oh my God, we were just trying to do this on our own with chat.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of this. And, so, I mean, it's going to move fast and you're going to have to stay on top of it.
Yeah.
But I don't think we should be, change is always scary, but at the same time, those who embrace change are the ones who end up doing well. And I think we should, again, this is probably not what you wanted to talk about. My fear though, is it's like when I lived overseas, in Japan, I never worried about losing who I was because I was already an American and it was fine living there. What I worried about with my kids growing up there is kind of half Japanese, half not. Would they be accepted? What would their identity be? It's the same thing with AI. Like if you grow up always depending on AI, do you develop those skills to use AI properly? And that's what I'm not letting my kids use it. They're not. They've got to do it by hand first. And once they learn that, then they can use the AI. They're not allowed to use AI until they can put their own ideas in there. Again, use it to take your ideas and mold them, not create new ideas.
Love it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go down this rabbit hole.
No. This is
people. This is important.
Yeah, this is phenomenal, dude. So let's. I want to cite in here is you're building the CIFT brand, doing the marketing, and again, like whether it's a manufacturer, another organization, a nonprofit, for-profit, anything surprising when you first came into CIFT, or like as you've evolved over the past 5 years. Anything that you want to share, like for folks that are just starting out their marketing journey at let's say the manufacturers that we're targeting, right? Where they've done no marketing for decades, like your grandfather, like, hey, we went to trade shows, we went to, word of mouth, we had referrals, we've never done this digital marketing thing. What are some things that have really evolved for you over the past 5 years? And then I'm kind of piggybacking with that. What's some advice or suggestions that you would give for manufacturers just kind of starting their digital marketing journey?
So, and probably my CIFT team would tell you, your website is so important, and your website can't just be a bulletin board of your services. It needs to be a reflection of your client. It has to be, again, I'm not a web developer, but I did work at a UX design firm for a couple of years in India. I understand how these tools should work and use. It needs to be sticky, meaning people should want to stick around and read, but it also needs to be functional to the point that they can find what they're looking for quickly. One thing I've done recently at CIFT, and I think it was a pretty fun activity, we broke up our internal team into small groups. And are you familiar with what a persona is?
Sure.
So I forced them, and this is kind of fun. I forced them to create a really creative persona of a mid-level manufacturing plant manager, whatever. Depending on what the group was. And we had fun with it. You could tell who was who, because, mine's a divorced, drinks too much, and mine's you could see people's personalities come out, but I really forced them to do that. And then I had them go through our website and force them to go through our website with certain tasks using that persona. And again, our website's not perfect. I'm proud of it, but it needs work. It needs to come. But that actually did two things. It kind of forced them to think in the client perspective. And it also, identified gaps in what we needed, because we don't have the big budget to go out and market research 10,000 manufacturers. We have to use our anecdotal and our internal, legacy knowledge to understand our client. So I thought that was a fun exercise. I would recommend any B2B manufacturer spend an afternoon with your website, because one, your workers are going to see a bigger picture, because your website should kind of give you a holistic view of your company, which sometimes people, even in CIFT, not everyone knew everything that was going on. And that kind of forced them. And it also forced them to all put the shoes of our client on, or our partners. I prefer to use the word partners, but I know that can be confusing. And it was a fun exercise. And you can design that. I'm happy to help you design that. It's not a super difficult task once you've got the framework to do, and it's totally worth the time. But keep in mind, these aren't going to change things overnight. That's one thing I've noticed. Like, oh, why isn't marketing working? We've been doing this for a week. Well, it doesn't take a week. It takes 6 months. It takes 8. It takes. But once you achieve that momentum, it can move more quickly. But you have to be consistent. And anyways, hope that answers your question.
Absolutely love it. So if you don't mind, I'm going to pull up the website real quick. You guys can see my screen.
Yeah.
And so again, if you're just joining us, I know we're coming to the top of the hour. We've got Todd Underwood here. He's with CIFT, and Todd, like, you're totally speaking our love language right now, because we preach that buyer persona. We call them soulmates. Like, who's that soulmate that has a problem today that needs a solution that you offer, whether it's a product you produce, service that you provide, whatever it might be. And so I absolutely love that you guys are you're eating your own dog food, drinking your own Kool-Aid, whatever the cliche is that we want to use. But you do a great job. So talk a little bit about the website, what you're hoping, like when that ideal customer comes here. And I feel like you do a great job of telling that story. We're going to show a video here in a minute. Just talk a little bit on some tips here.
So we launched our website 3 years ago. It was my first big project. I like where we're at now. I think we're probably getting close to needing to do it again, to be honest with you. But one thing we had at CIFT, and I'm sure other MEP centers have that, is we do so many things, right? So we do so many different things. How do you not lose people? We had some tension, I guess, between our manufacturing team and our food team, even though we're all on the same team. What are we more important? We are an MEP. So the very first thing I wanted to do is kind of make the homepage comprehensive, right? How do we fit all these together? And if you want to scroll up, this is probably not the best solution, but at the time, what we did is we made our H1, this actually will rotate. So this is our main thing, rotates, it'll go to our food team, it'll rotate, it'll go to our manufacturing team. Again, it's making sure this is getting a little in the weeds, but does it rotate fast enough? Does it rotate too fast? These are all things. I don't have the time. I wish I did to do that, but the point is it's there. And then we really thought about, it sounds crazy, but we really thought about our menu. Like, do we say services or do we say industries? That was a huge toss up, because I won, I think, because I went with our industries, because again, that's our client. If we just list services, that's a very different thing. But as you can see, even now, I think we're getting to the point we have so many services. We're actually talking about in the next few months looking at these and trying to cut this down a little bit, not to remove services, but to make them more holistic. Like if you look here, one of the things we're working on is I can't see, optimization assessment under manufacturing. That's something that I'm hoping, again, that'll go to those 3 problems we talked about. It's just a way that we can turn a site visit, which some people see as a sales pitch, into something that's got real value. We deliver something that even if they never talk to us again, they've got a roadmap of big, small wins, medium wins, and large wins that they can do. And again, this is all work in progress, guys. So I'm giving them, this is not, it's a living thing. Your website's never done. Anybody says, well, we're done with the website, it's crazy. We update this thing and SEO it. That's one thing AI has also helped with, SEO. It does all your SEO work, which used to take a long time because I do all that internally. But again, these are all things focused on our clients and their challenges, and if you look at our language, we talk about manufacturers, and the first thing, we're not talking about CIFT. Oh, I just say CIFT, but it's just for every manufacturer and food processor. Again, we're talking about their problems. So they read this and they go, okay, they know the problem I'm having. And if we're not getting any traction, we're focusing on the wrong problem, right? So, and there's lots of ways we do that. So hope that answered your question.
No, you absolutely, Todd, crushing it here, dude. Damon, a lot of drop the mic moments here, but unlock smarter growth with CIFT's optimization assessment. And again, what I love here is, I'll stop sharing. Doesn't matter what product you sell, what service you're providing. No. What Todd's describing is, number one, identifying that ideal buyer. Number two, like making it all about them, and how does our expertise help you? You mentioned the 3 problems. Let's dive into those, Todd. What are we talking about with those 3 problems?
So we recently had a new teammate, and maybe I'll bring him in sometime. He was a head of a plant for ConAgra Foods for many years. Really good guy, Jason Schiniger. And I've really enjoyed having him, not because it's kind of nice to have those fresh fresh perspective. And I realized talking to him, oh my God, respectfully, I'm using too much MEP language. After my 6 years here, I'm saying industry 4.0 too much. And not that that's a wrong thing, but a lot of people don't care about that.
Right.
Yeah.
But and there's a blog on our website about this. He went to visit he does something called autonomous maintenance, which is like a way of helping people find small things with big impact. And he went to visit one of our clients. I don't want to say who it was. And I said, well, how'd it go? And we ended up having a 2.5-hour conversation. And he's like, well, I identified where there was some waste of a food item that had been dripping between. And when I calculated it out, it was $25,000 they were losing a year. And just by doing this, and I was like, you just helped them, and he's like, yeah, I guess you're right. I did. And we're like, so just by going and doing a walkthrough, not giving them any service at all, you've identified a problem that they didn't even know they were having. Every manufacturer knows they have problems. They just don't always know where they are, which one should come first. So that's the problem of time, right? A little bit of time, because this particular manufacturer is struggling to keep workforce. There are two owners. So, okay, so we said, what problems do all manufacturers have? Well, again, time. Okay, now, why did they listen to us? Oh, because they trust us, because they've been working with us for a while. But if somebody didn't know us, what would make them trust us? Well, there's the typical things like success stories, but hey, we're a nonprofit whose entire mission is not to make money, but to help you. Like, that is our mission statement. So there's some built-in trust if we market that right. And then the third part is implementation. So now they know what they need to do. They trust that you're right, but heck, how do I do this? I don't have the in-house expertise. Now, CIFT is very unique in the fact that we do have not very unique, but not all MEP centers have that. A lot of MEP centers will help you find a third party and they'll project management. We have both, but that's what we say. Like, if we can't solve the problem for you with our own services, we'll find somebody that you can trust, and we won't just hand you off to them. We will project manage this through the entire project, because that's the way the MEP set up. And at the end, if it doesn't work, you get to rate us, and that's how we get funding, right? So time, trust, and implementation. Those are the three things. And every single mid-sized manufacturer has those problems anywhere in the country. That's not hard to understand. And it doesn't matter. Like, again, I hope it's all right with Kurt. I bring up that, one of the struggles at the national MEP level is it's a bunch of different cats of different colors all over the place.
Right.
So again, how do you solve for that when you're trying to get, as funding goes down and it's more competitive, how do we make the MEP as a whole stronger? And let's be honest, it's a hard thing to do, and we haven't always necessarily done a great job of it because we're still struggling with it. So this was an attempt to kind of solve for that. But I hope, hopefully, I was going to actually try to speak at this year's MEP on this, but with everything going on, they're not having it. But I hopefully maybe next year we'll have a little more data to go with it. But the idea is that we can solve for those three things. We can get in the door with this assessment, because we're providing value. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But we give you something that. And again, that builds trust too, right? If we're giving you something of value for nothing, and the thing is, we're already doing it on our site visits. We're already doing it. We're just giving them something that's valuable out of that, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
Time, trust, and implementation. Damon, what do you have?
Well, and I think that you bring up a great point. You are already doing it. I think a lot of people that help service providers, that help companies, they go in and do a lot of this stuff, but they don't talk about it. And you, by what you're doing and bringing it up and consciously thinking about it and making it a value point that people can see, makes it a much easier choice.
Well, and one thing I would say too, that was, we were lucky with Jason, and this is something I think a lot of people do. They launch a service, and if it doesn't work, they quit. What we did is, we've been working on this 6 or 7 months, and we have just started marketing it recently. We basically did alpha tests. We went and tried to do these assessments. We call people, would you mind, you trust us if we came and try? And we changed it a lot, because we realized until you get out there and even try it, it all looks great in your head. And then you go out there. So you actually have to go test these things a little bit and develop them. You can't, I think a lot of times people, well, this is a great idea, let's go sell it. Oh, didn't sell, we quit. No, you've got to, and that's that design thinking. And we were very fortunate to be able to do that the last 6 months. So, and we'll change it again as we need to. So that's really important. I'd say is go out and test your idea with the clients you trust, and see if they don't tell you it's valuable, it's not valuable.
Right. So, a couple of takeaways there is, again, focusing on that expertise. What are your God-given talents, or what are your superpowers? What, whatever the cliche tagline, what are your core strengths that you bring to the market? How can you implement those, execute those, be that fierce educator like our friends here at CIFT? And, back to the MEP network, I want to point out, you guys are the food technology experts. And so I could be in Alaska, I could be in New Jersey, I could be in Florida. And I, as a manufacturer, I still could work my way back to the food technology experts in Northwest Ohio because of the MEP network. Is that correct, Todd?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's, so out of like 1,300 experts, give or take, whatever the number is of the MEP, teamwork nationwide,
Yes.
teammates nationwide, there's so much expertise to take advantage of.
A ton.
So let's slide in here. So you, when you came on last time, you showed us, I still vividly remember the last video you showed. I absolutely love it. You have a new one. I cannot wait to check this out. So I'm going to share my screen once again.
Yeah.
So Todd, we're going to be talking about unlocking the power of partnership with Henny Penny. Well, talk to us a little bit about this video, then I'm going to hit play.
So basically the idea of this video was these are companies that we've worked with a lot. I'm going to be very, but the framework, the storyboard was these companies are awesome. They're doing awesome stuff. We're helping them do awesome stuff. But we wanted not to talk to their salespeople. We wanted to talk to their engineers. We wanted to talk to the people doing the work. So we spent a whole day at their headquarters, which I would recommend anybody. I've been to Yahoo headquarters back in the day. These guys make deep fryers, but their headquarters look like something out of Silicon Valley. It's one of the most awesome campuses I've ever seen. We just spent the whole day touring their facility and getting them, and sometimes asking lots of questions to get to this three-minute video. But the idea is get these folks to talk about what they do like I mentioned earlier, in a way that's natural and not a sales pitch, but just here's what motivates you to come to work every day. And I think, well, you can watch the video and see if we hit the mark.
Well, absolutely love it. And I love, we got the US flag. And of course I love seeing that state of Ohio flag flying right there with Henny Penny. So, okay, let's hit the play button. We've got a 3-minute video. We're going to watch the whole thing and then we'll come back.
What do we do at Henny Penny? We make commercial cooking equipment. Our vision, our mission statement, we feed the world. We take that to heart in every single thing that we do.
We're making the food that you and your family eat every time you go out to a quick service restaurant, whether that be McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Wendy's, all around the world.
When you go into a store to eat, you want consistency of what that product is. It doesn't matter whether you're in Detroit or whether you're in Taipei. That's our customer's critical feature. And what we have done with our technology and with our equipment is we've actually been able to account for variations in the product that's actually put into it to make sure that when they pull that food out of that fryer, it's exactly the same, whether you're in the US, Mexico, Canada, Europe, or Russia.
We've partnered with CIFT several times. One big way has been understanding. So with oil's an ingredient that a lot of people don't think about it. They go get their food and it tastes great. They don't think about the fact that the oil that it was cooked in is actually an ingredient. And it's an important ingredient for most of our customers. And so we've partnered with CIFT several times to get a better understanding of that oil, how it breaks down, and how we can make it last longer. It's also an expensive ingredient for our customers.
We have to do a little bit more of I'll call it an artist, in order to be able to compensate for the variations in the product. Where like a lot of food companies, it's just packaging and things like that. We actually have to invest a lot in our technology and our advancements in order to be able to make that consistency across the board, no matter where you're at or where you're getting the actual food from.
A good example of how that membership has benefited us has been we were working on a project and we were getting outside quotes. We were looking for an outside service to help us develop a new technology. We had found a local firm that was wanting to charge us around $300,000 for this technology, which would have killed the project in essence. We reached out to CIFT. They were able to help us find a partner. And in that, we were able to find a company that could do it for about 1/10 of the price, which saved the project, allowed it to be developed, and made a huge impact within the research and development group.
The complexity of our systems is actually quite astounding. The cooking part is the easiest thing we do. The rest of the system is where all the complexity is, including the oil management, which is critical to all of our customers. And that's how we actually save them money in the long run.
We've been able to partner with Ohio State and get research opportunities that we wouldn't have access in other ways. CIFT has helped us set up tours of facilities so that we're able to understand how larger food manufacturers are frying foods and how we can take that technology and implement it in a smaller scale. You're developing new technologies, you're thinking outside of the box. And in those moments when you're stuck, the network is what matters. It's the people that you could reach out to, the companies that you can reach out to, the technologies that you can pull in that you didn't think of that may apply. It's invaluable for us.
Dude, that was phenomenal.
That's awesome.
What a great, man. That's like an Oscar award-winning performance right there. So I'm going to stop sharing.
A little funny, quick, funny note. So I am a Cincinnati fan, and one thing I love is Skyline Chili, and they don't have Skyline Chili up in Toledo. So after the shoot, there was a Skyline Chili in the little town that Henny Penny's in. And we go in there and we look, and they're using Henny Penny deep fryers. So we asked the manager. So all that French fry stuff is just stuff where we stopped to lunch and asked if we. So we had turned the Skyline into a shoot for about 30 minutes, and they let us. And they gave us free.
Oh, is that right? That's where that.
Yeah, it was all. We're like, hey, that's a Henny. Hey, we were just at Henny Penny. Could we shoot? Because we didn't have anything of them cooking, right?
Yeah.
So we ended up having a bunch of chili dogs and three-ways, and then shooting another hour at Skyline in Eaton, Ohio.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
That's great.
So all right, phenomenal. First off, round of applause. Everybody give Todd a big round of applause. That was just such an inspiring video. Talk a little bit about, what did it take for like that commitment? First off, I want to hit the $300,000 project that you got down to a 10th. Talk to us a little bit on how the MEP helped save them 90% on that project.
So I won't lie, I wasn't involved in that particular project. That was the first time I'd heard that story. But Henny Penny does come to a lot of our events. And we've done multiple projects with them, and we check in on them every year. And some of the people who work with Henny Penny, maybe on the supply chain, we do a lot of work. So through a lot of we have roundtables a few times a year where we go to certain companies. I think the last one we did was at Ohio State Technology Research Area. We brought a bunch of food companies in there and have a roundtable and a tour. So we do a lot of things like that where it's just getting those conversations going. You'd be surprised how much gets done just by getting people talking for an afternoon together. Things that you can't plan for them, right? You just don't know until you do it. But 9 times out of 10, you find some value. So I'd say that was a big thing with Henny Penny. Like I said, I apologize. I don't have more details on that particular one. That was sort of like, wow. I was sitting there right 10 feet from her going, wow, I didn't know that story. That's awesome. We did that. But what I'm most proud about that one is, again, those weren't salespeople. They were really nervous. And they didn't come across that way, but you talk to them. You don't give them a script. You don't even give them a list of questions. They'll say, well, what do you want? Can I have it? No, because I don't want you practicing that. I don't know what I'm going to ask you until I hear what you say. So I thought they did a really good job. That was a little bit pro CIFT more than I remembered, but I thought they represented their own company really well. And like I said, they liked it enough to put it on their main website. And that's great for the MEP too. Like I said, it sort of goes together if you do it right. Who are you talking about more, MEP or the manufacturers? Well, if you do it right, you're both.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing, Todd, is here we are, we're on LinkedIn today. Damon, you've got a nice following. And, here we're sharing a story about Henny Penny. So like by that collaboration opportunity, it's a great opportunity. So for folks out there, small manufacturers like, hey, wait a minute, I'm a team of 5, we're a company of 10 employees. Henny Penny can do that. We can't. Yes, you can do that. And what you can do is either align with your local MEP, manufacturing extension partnership, whatever state you're coming to us from. There's one near you. Number 2, find other friends, family, like find another partner. If you're manufacturing, lamps, who's the lampshade person? Align with other folks that are targeting, Todd mentioned those personas. Find other collaboration partners, and it doesn't. And so, Todd, we don't need to break the budget to shoot. But talk a little bit about what it takes to get a night to tell that story out there.
Well, it gets easier the more I've done it, to be honest with you, because you get more comfortable. But one thing I just want to segue just a little bit. Another thing, and I bet you guys might do this or do something similar, Kurt and Damon. Once you build those personas. And you can use AI for this. I don't recommend it 100%. Get somebody to know, but create what I call a customer journey map for your client. Because what we do is we create multiple different ones. You've got your typical sales. This is when they're aware. This is when they're the decisions. But what I do is then we have what are the pain points they're having at all those types and what are the outcomes that they want. And then I can run all the things that CIFT offers. And I can use AI. I used to not use AI, but it saves a lot of time now. And we can create a whole list of opportunities and things that we can do to help or market. And one thing I explain is you can't do them all. You get such a big list from this.
Yeah.
But what it does is it gives you those small wins to big wins. And it's all again through the client's perspective rather than here's our list of services and we're trying to pigeonhole them into here. We're going from the client's pain points, bringing that to what we offer. Does it rather than, I think sometimes a lot of companies go the other way. These are our services. How can we sell them? So with those personas, I recommend doing journey mapping. I think it really helps and gives you, again, doesn't take a lot more time with AI. You can do it fast. Just make sure you're checking it so it doesn't lie to you like it does sometimes. But that's a big component that we've been trying to push as well lately.
Well, and just a piggyback with the woman that was just speaking on the video from Henny Penny, she described like we had a problem. So that, that's a story, right?
Yes.
It was my pain point. We were looking for this production service, $300,000, cost prohibitive. We weren't going to be able to do it. We line with our friends at CIFT. They bring it down 90% and get it to the cost that's now manageable, reasonable, palatable, and we're able. So like that's a buyer journey right there that you just described. And look at how you described. So number one, you just told a story. Number two, you took them through the buyer's journey, and number three, it's the time, trust, and the implementation. So like this, everything's tying together.
You're nailing it, Kurt. It's all part of a process. If you say, well, why do you do a persona? Well, it's not just doing the persona.
Right.
It's taking the time to put yourself in the shoes. Why do you do the journey map? Well, it's not just the journey map, right? Why do you want to tell the story? I even remember in Chicago, I got asked a question, well, how would you do this for selling lean? And you probably don't remember this, but it stumped me because I wasn't an angle I was prepared to ask for. He wasn't a believer in the storytelling, but I was still new to kind of building this process. And now I can answer that question like that.
Yeah.
But, again, it's a mindset and doing all these things changes the mindset of your organization to be client focused. And that's where you deliver your value.
And we're sports fans. It's just like, and again, like it's always tough, because you have the hindsight when somebody throws a curveball at you, and Damon, like this, like, it wasn't like there was 10 people in the room. Like we were in a massive room. I don't know, Todd, I was like way in the back. I mean, there were like hundreds of people in the room. And so the thing is, it doesn't matter whether it's lean, it doesn't matter what the problem, what they throw at you. It's like, picture your customer, right? That persona in the end zone, whatever sport, crossing home plate, whatever it might be, scoring the winning goal, paint them in that picture. And then now let's just reverse engineer it, right? Todd?
Yes. Well, yeah, 100%. And what I'd say too is, and this is more for the MEP side, is MEP usually isn't people right out of college. It's usually people with a lot of experience who have done this. So we can't all afford $10,000 market research. Again, but you already have this in-house. Again, you have this in-house. Are you spending time doing it? And there's lots of activities you can do. You can spend more or less time. But I'm a firm advocate that the more time you spend on this at the beginning, the less time you'll have to spend selling at the end.
Yeah. I tell you.
Yeah, I agree.
Phenomenal story. All right, Todd, what for our manufacturing friends out there that are just getting started? Again, I mentioned this earlier. What's like advice, like how can they just get like, man, Todd, it's over. Like, I love what you're saying, love what we're doing. Like, buyer persona, buyer journey, like where do I start? Do I call a guy like you? What does that look like?
So again, this is kind of bigger than marketing, and it's something I talk a lot about. When you're manufacturing, if you're a manufacturing company, what is your mission, right? Is it just to make a widget? No. It is to help the supply chain create. I don't know what it is. I can't say, but I often get pushback. Well, we don't need that flowery language. We don't need. No, because once you establish what your mission is, you run everything through that. Wow. Everything, every decision, every investment, is this helping do what I said I wanted to do at the beginning? And that's the personas, all of that. So I think if you're just starting out, don't start with, well, I want to make a widget. Start out with something a little more aspirational than that. because it'll be your guiding star as you go through the tough times.
Right.
And it keeps you from doing scope creep. It keeps you from getting distracted, because there are going to be distractions. Like, there's problems, and you never know what to prioritize. But if you always focused on that beginning, that core mission, whatever that is, and it could be, we just want to make the best widget. That's fine. It doesn't have to be flaw, but whatever that is, stick with that, because the strategies can change, but that can't, for you to be a successful organization.
Moment of silence, Damon. Moment of silence. That's a drop the mic moment right there. Dude, that was the perfect answer. Drop the mic. And just to kind of recap what Todd is, what's the mission? What's your cause? So as a matter of fact, Damon, we have an email coming out. If it's not this week, it's next week. Like, what's your saga? What's the cause that you're fighting for? Like, what, and again, like, I manufacture like this little widget. Well, you know what? Maybe this little widget is a safety item. It's keeping kids safe in a car. Maybe it's, there's my thumbs up. So, maybe it's, whatever the product is. Like, I love what Todd's saying. Like, put a cause or a mission behind it, and then everything else falls, the persona, the buyer journey, everything else falls in place. Damon, what are your thoughts?
Well, and I think you're right. It's manufacturers, they forget more than you forget so much. You talk about experienced people, you forget so much. And when you look at almost anything that's built in the United States today, or anywhere really, there is so much that goes into how did you figure out what you're doing today, and how did you get there? And that story is so important, because the user of that product wants to know about you, about your process, and those kind of things, and just keeping that focus on that, and talking with your soulmate the way you need to is gives them that trust, like you said, to get back. And so it's just cool when you do it right.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, Todd, I tell you, man, just the first time I heard you speak, I've always felt like a kindred spirit with you. I just love hearing your wisdom, brilliance. I know we're coming at a time we could keep you here all day. We got to have you back sooner than a couple years.
Yep. But let me know. I love coming on. I love talking to you guys.
How about, let's go here, and I might have asked you this last time, but I'm going to throw it at you again. We'll see if it's the same or different answer. Best business advice. What's the best business advice that you've ever received, A or B, that you want to pass along to maybe a young entrepreneur, a new entrepreneur? Best business advice that you want to pass along.
Oh, that's a tough one.
And you've thrown a ton of.
I think it's take the risks when you can, I guess, maybe. Because if you're not willing to do a certain level of risk, you shouldn't go into business. And if I knew what I knew now at 20, I'd probably be making a lot more money, but I have a lot more to risk now. I'm not saying you have to start when you're young.
Yeah.
But we had have you ever heard of Willie's Salsa? I think Willie's was in the video with the Marsh's Buckeyes.
Yeah.
He was I don't know how old, 60, and was working for a pool company. And someone said, "This is the salsa we get at the store." And he's like, "This tastes like crap. I can make better salsa than this," because he had learned. He mortgaged his house.
Yeah.
He said, "I'm going to be living under a bridge, or I'm going to be making the bet." And now it's in every state. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying you have to go that far.
Yeah.
But if you want to start out a business, understand your risk tolerance to your likelihood of success. Because I think too many people, and then you can scale back your idea based on that too. Because too many people, I want to do 25 flavors of salsa. Well, maybe you don't want to do 20. Maybe you just want to do it part-time, start with one. But that's a really important thing from the beginning, because so many things you can get right at the beginning will save you time later. Setting that foundation at the beginning is so important, because you get so deep on things you don't want to go back and redo them, and then you end up doubling down on things you shouldn't do. So that's the thing. Take the time at the beginning. That's the important thing. But then again, don't do analysis paralysis. So I guess you can't go too deep, but really understand what your risk tolerance is at the beginning and build your business around that.
Take a focused risk. How about that? We'll sum it up like that. Go. Take a focused risk.
I hope that answers the question.
You're going to, if you're going to make a salsa, make that one killer salsa like our friend Willie. So, all right, I've got two more quick questions for you. Then we're going to let you go.
I'm on no rush. It's fine.
You sitting down? You ready for this? All right.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Favorite Cincinnati Red of all time?
Ooh, no.
Okay, Chris Sabo.
Chris Sabo.
Yeah, because I would go down to the games with my grandfather at Riverfront Stadium, and we would go after the game to where the players would come out. And Chris Sabo was a huge player at that time, huge player. And he drove a beat-up Chevette And he was the only. Eric Davis walked right by. I can't remember who. Everyone walked right by. Jose Rijo walked by, but Chris Sabo stopped and signed every single person's card. And I just always thought he was the coolest, nicest guy. Now, there's a lot of Reds I love, but just from a personal point of view, I did meet Deion Sanders once when he played. That was kind of interesting.
Nice.
I had him sign up for a Reds credit card as a joke, and he put like $3 million as his salary. But I liked Chris Sabo. I just thought he was a class act.
Great answer. Love it. Cincinnati Bengal. Who's your favorite Bengal of all time?
Chad Johnson, not even close. I love Ocho Cinco. His end zone things are great. I still follow him on X. He's just a hilarious guy. I guess he's never had a drink in his life, which you would never guess from his personality.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
I was at his rookie game where he broke his arm back when you could get
really?
tickets. You could when I was a Bengals fan down there, you could walk to the stadium and walk in. I mean, they were terrible. Now I can't afford to take my family, because they're so good. So there's a downside of them being good. But I always loved Chad Ochocinco. I had his jersey in Japan, and people, what is that? Ochocinco.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome. Absolutely love it. That darn Joe Burrow had to go make the Bengals good. Now
I love Joe too.
Priced everybody out of the stadium.
Yeah, I know. The price is it's like your town's real estate going up. It's both a blessing and a curse, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So, all right, Todd, we're gonna wind down. Hang out with us for 1 second. And dude, first off, massive thank you. Damon, your takeaways today?
No, it's just cool. The storytelling that you guys are doing, Todd, is incredible, and then helping the manufacturers understand how to bring it to the world.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate the chance to talk about it.
Great stuff. So, all right, Todd, first off, a big thank you to you. We wish you, your team at CIFT, just continued massive success. We're just so thrilled. Hopefully, we're going to keep this MEP party going for as long as possible. You guys do amazing, incredible work for manufacturers throughout the entire United States. If you're blessed and fortunate enough to be anywhere in the state of Ohio, let alone in Northwest Ohio, please reach out to Todd. Even if you're not in Ohio, reach out to Todd. He'll get you connected. He knows a guy. He knows a gal. So whatever state you're coming from, connect with Todd on LinkedIn. And Todd, as we always love to say, just go out and be someone's inspiration, like our dear friend Todd. Damon, have a big round of applause. Big round of applause for Todd, guys. So thank you for joining us today. Check out CIFT. Check out Todd on LinkedIn. And hey, we're going to be back here Friday for more fun. So Todd, hang out 1 second.
Sure,
and you guys, we wish you a
Thanks,
blessed
everybody.
week.
Have a great rest of your week, everyone.